They will ask you questions about radians. Now, remember that pi radians equal 180 degrees. Therefore, 3 pi radians would be 3 times 180. That would account for 540 degrees. 2/3 pi radians would be 2/3 of 180, or 120 degrees. Just keep in mind that pi radians are 180 degrees. You'll also need to be able to deal with the equations of circles. Now, if you've got a center of a circle at 3, 4, and the circle has a radius of 5, your equation would be x minus 3 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 5 squared. So you can see it's x minus the x value at the center, quantity squared, plus y minus the y value at the center, quantity squared, equals the radius squared. Slope problems are really pretty easy if you remember that slope is just rise over run. The distance a line goes up divided by the distance the line goes across. So what we're talking about is the difference in the y coordinates divided by the distance in the x coordinates, or the change in y divided by the change in x. Let's look at an example. Let's say that there's a line that extends from the points 3, 2 to 5, 4. What would the slope of that be? Well, we simply look at the numbers. The y points are 2 and 4, so the difference would be 4 minus 2, or 2. The x coordinates are 5 and 3, so 5 minus 3 is 2. Therefore, we have 2 divided by 2, and a slope of 1. You can also determine the slope using the point-slope formula, y equals mx plus b. If you can get an equation in this form, y equals mx plus b, you can then use m as the slope. Remember that a horizontal line has a slope of 0. A line sloping down, left to right, has a negative slope. You will need to remember how to FOIL elements of a math expression. Remember, FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, last. So when you have a problem like this where you've got x plus 4 times x plus 6, you multiply the first elements, x times x, the outside, 6 times x, the inside, 4 times x, and then the last, 6 times 4. That gives you a new expression of x squared plus 10x plus 24. You may have to reverse FOIL, and that is to break that expression back down into its components to solve for it. So in this case, you know that your first element of the expression is going to be x. So you'd have x in the first place. Now we see nothing but positives up here, so we're going to have x plus times x plus. Now to find the elements of the rest of the expression, we need to know what will multiply together to give us 16 and then add together to give us 10. We look at the factors of 16. We've got 1 times 16, 4 times 4, 2 times 8. Well, 2 and 8 will add up to 10, so that tells us the expression's x plus 2 times x plus 8. And if we want to find the solution set for this expression, we set both parts of the expression equal to 0. So we say x plus 2 equals 0. Solving for x, we find that x equals negative 2. To the other side, we say x plus 8 equals 0, so x equals negative 8. Therefore, the solution set for this expression is negative 2, negative 8. And now we'll take a look at functions. Remember, with functions, you're given a new rule, and into that new rule you make your substitutions. So in this case, let's say we have a function of f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 10. If we want to find f of 2, we simply substitute 2 into the expression. We've got f of 2 equals 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 10. So that gives us 4 minus 12 plus 10. which gives us 2. They may also give you one where they give you a function of f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 10, and that g of x is equal to x plus 2. Then they will ask you for f of g of x. Well, this is a nested function, and you work from the inside out. So the first thing we do is say g of x is x plus 2. So f of g of x is equal to x plus 2, because it goes in the x spot in the f equation, x plus 2 squared minus 6 times x plus 2 plus 10. Solving that, we get x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus 6x minus 12 plus 10, giving us an expression of x squared minus 2x plus 2 as a value for f of g of x. Now let's look at a nested function where we're solving for a real number. Again, we've got f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 10, and g of x is equal to x plus 2. Now we're asking for f of g of 2. Remember, you work from the inside out, so the first step is to solve for g of 2. G of 2 would be 2 plus 2, or 4. Now we take that value of g of 2, 4, and substitute it in where the x is in the f equation, which gives us 4 squared minus 6 times 4 plus 10, which gives us 16 minus 24 plus 10, which gives us 2. You'll encounter a little bit of trigonometry on this test, but you'll find in the majority of the cases remembering SOHCAHTOA will help you solve any of the trigonometry questions we see on this test. You determine the side of an angle by dividing the line opposite the angle by the hypotenuse of that triangle, thus giving you the SOH, or SO. Let's be sure we visualize this correctly. Now remember, we said sine was opposite over hypotenuse. So if we've got angle A here, the sine would be the opposite over the hypotenuse. The cosine of an angle is determined by dividing the side adjacent to that angle by the hypotenuse of the triangle, thus giving you CAH, C-A-H. You determine the tangent of an angle by dividing the side opposite the angle by the side adjacent to the angle, thus giving you the TOA, or TOA. So this gives us SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and the tangent is opposite over adjacent. SOHCAHTOA. Once again, let's be sure we've got this straight. Well, let's say this is angle A, and we have sides of 5, 12, and 13. Well, the cosine of A would be adjacent over hypotenuse, so it would be 5 over 13. Sine of A would be opposite over hypotenuse, that would be 12/13. And the tangent of A is opposite over adjacent, or 12 over 5. You will also probably see logarithms. Now remember that the log of base A of a number B is equal to C. Another way to express this is A to the C equals B. So putting numbers to it, log to the base 2 of 16 equals 4. Or in other words, 2 to the 4th equals 16. Don't get thrown if you see matrices on the test. A matrix is a rectangular table of numbers consisting of abstract quantities that can be added or multiplied. The majority of the time you're going to be performing simple operations. You may be adding a row or a column or multiplying across, something relatively simple. They may also present you with complex numbers. Now in math, a complex number is a number of the form where a and b are real numbers and a plus b I, where I is the imaginary unit. And it has the property that I squared equals -1. The real part of the complex number is a, and the real number b is the imaginary part.